200 men, all of them in prison, all of them behind walls, and every single one of them is collecting money from the streets of Southern California right now while you watch this video. 2.3 million people are incarcerated in the United States right now. The Mexican Mafia has 200 full members. That is less than 0.02% of the prison population, controlling more criminal territory than any other organization in American history. Not because they are the most violent, not because they are the largest, because 67 years ago, 13 men in a California prison cell figured out something about power that governments twice their size have never understood. By the end of this video, that number 200 is going to feel very different than it does right now. The night IT started Duell Vocational Institution, Tracy, California. A young Mexican-American inmate named Luis Flores is sitting in a cell with a problem that has no clean solution. Black inmates have organized. White inmates are organizing. Mexican-American inmates, the fastest growing population in the California system, are completely fragmented. Different cities, different street gangs. Years of fighting each other on the outside has made them individually vulnerable on the inside. Flores reaches out to 12 men he trusts, men from different cities who share one understanding. What divided them outside matters less than what is threatening them inside. They call themselves the Mexican Mafia. La-im, the letter M in Spanish. 13 men, one meeting, no exit clause, no provision for retirement, no way out once you are in. They built it to last, and it has lasted longer than any of them lived to see. The tax, the mechanism that changes everything. This is the most important section of this entire video. If you understand this, you understand everything. The Mexican Mafia does not primarily make money by selling drugs. It makes money by taxing people who sell drugs. That distinction is everything. Here is how it works. A street dealer in East Los Angeles sells methamphetamine on a corner. He belongs to a Serrano gang. His gang operates under La-im's authority. Every week, a percentage of his earnings moves up through his gang's hierarchy. From him to his shot caller. From his shot caller to the gang leadership. From the gang leadership to a La-im associate. And from that associate, the money reaches an incarcerated La-im member who has not touched a drug or been on a street corner in years. That member is not a street criminal. He's a senior executive collecting a royalty on an operation he owns, but does not personally run. Now multiply that structure across every Serrano-affiliated gang in Southern California. Every city, every neighborhood, every corner. The total number of people paying into this system runs into the tens of thousands. The total revenue runs into hundreds of millions annually, collected by 200 men sitting in prison cells. This is why 200 men can control an empire. They did not build a gang. They built a tax authority. And tax authorities do not need to be large to be powerful. They need to be credible. The Mexican Mafia has been credible for 67 consecutive years. The rule that proved the power a park in Los Angeles. Senior La-im members out on parole gather. With the leadership of dozens of Serrano-affiliated street gangs from across Southern California. One agenda item. One new rule. No Serrano-affiliated gang will conduct drive-by shootings from moving vehicles. Not ever. The reason was pure business logic. Drive-by shootings brought law enforcement pressure. Law enforcement pressure disrupted drug distribution. Disrupted distribution reduced revenue. And reduced revenue was the one outcome La-im considered completely unacceptable. The meeting ended. The rule traveled through the network. And drive-by shootings by Serrano-affiliated gangs in Los Angeles dropped dramatically in the months that followed. The LAPD documented the change in their statistics. Researchers studied it, and the conclusion was one of the most remarkable findings in the history of organized crime research. Incarcerated men held a meeting in a public park and changed the pattern of street violence across one of the largest cities in the world. 200 men, a park, a single rule. An entire city changed its behavior because the consequences of not changing were understood to be real, immediate, and permanent. What happens when you don't pay a mid-level Serrano gang leader? The San Fernando Valley decided to stop paying. The tax increase La-im had imposed was cutting into his margins. He had heard from people he trusted that enforcement might not be as rigorous as everyone assumed. 3 weeks passed. Nothing happened. His operation continued. His margins improved. The people he had consulted took his survival as confirmation of their theory. In the 4th week, two men he had never seen before walked into a location associated with his operation. They delivered a message that required no words and medical attention to receive. He resumed paying at the increased rate, plus the 3 weeks he had withheld, plus an additional amount for the organizational cost of delivering the message. The total was significantly more than the increase he had regionally objected to. This story in its general structure has repeated across Southern California for 67 years. The specific details change every time. The outcome never does. Because an organization whose authority rests entirely on enforcement credibility and not allow a single documented case of non-payment go in without consequence. The moment it can, the entire structure dissolves. Lain has understood this since the night Luis Flores gathered 12 men in a Tracy prison cell. Every decision since then has been made with that understanding at its center. The federal response, the United States government has spent decades and hundreds of millions of dollars trying to permanently dismantle the Mexican mafia. RICO prosecutions, targeted investigations, wiretaps, informant programs, senior members convicted and sentenced to life, networks disrupted, assets seized, and then rebuilt. Because here is what 67 years of federal prosecution has proven about this organization. You can remove members, you can disrupt networks, you can prosecute enterprises and impose sentences that will keep specific individuals confined for the rest of their natural lives. The organization absorbs every single one of these losses and continues. Because the organization is not its members, it is its structure, the tax system, the network of street affiliates, the cultural authority that makes the directives credible enough to be followed without constant physical enforcement. Remove any individual and the structure fills the gap immediately. It has been filling gaps for 67 years. It has become very efficient at it. 200 men cells, monitored mail, supervised visits, restricted communication, every institutional control the most powerful prison system on earth can impose. And the tax gets collected. The rules get enforced. The directives travel from inside those walls to the streets of Southern California and get followed by tens of thousands of people who have never met the men. Who issued them? Not despite the incarceration. Because of it. Men who are already inside have nothing left that law enforcement can threaten. No freedom to lose. No family safety to leverage. No deal worth making. They are already paying the price. And from inside that price, they run everything. 200 men. The most efficient criminal organization in American history. Not the most violent. Not the largest. The most efficient. Subscribe to Dark Ranks. Because next time, we go inside an organization that built its power on something even simpler than a tax, something that every person watching this video already understands and uses every single day. Stay dark.